You spent your 20s confused, while others collected achievements. Your 30s wondering when your turn would come. Your 40s questioning if you missed the window entirely. Everyone else seems to have figured it out decades ago, posting about promotions, second homes, early retirements. Meanwhile, you are still building something you cannot quite name, still searching for a success that feels real instead of performed. If you are an old soul, an INFJ, or what Jung called the introverted intuitive type, your entire life has probably felt like showing up late to a party that already ended. While everyone else sprints ahead, collecting the markers of achievement, you move at a different pace entirely, unable to rush, unable to play a game that feels rigged against everything you value. But here is what nobody tells you. You are not failing. You are gestating. Like a bamboo tree that spends 5 years building an invisible root system underground before shooting up 90 feet in 6 weeks, your success is not late. It is deep. And depth, as Jung discovered, requires time that shallow success does not. The question Jung spent decades answering in his clinical practice was this: why does nature delay certain people? Why do some individuals seem constitutionally incapable of moving at the speed everyone else moves? The answer lies in what he called individuation, the process of becoming who you actually are rather than who society expects you to be. And understanding this process changes everything. The pain of being this personality type in a world that rewards speed over depth is unbearable. You see through the masks people wear, the fake laughs at corporate meetings, the performative friendships on social media, the shallow small talk that everyone else seems to enjoy. You cannot play the game of the persona, that carefully crafted image we present to the world. While others slip into their social masks effortlessly, like putting on a comfortable jacket, you stand there exposed, raw, unable to fake enthusiasm for things that feel hollow. Every networking event feels like a betrayal of your soul. Every job interview where you have to sell yourself feels like prostitution of your authenticity. Every social gathering where you are expected to engage in meaningless chatter about weather and weekend plans drains you so completely that you need 3 days to recover. Society punishes you for this. They call you slow, lazy, oversensitive, too serious, not a team player, unable to read the room, socially awkward. These labels stick to you like tar, and after hearing them enough times, you start believing maybe everyone else is right, and you are the problem. Jung understood this conflict intimately because he lived it. He contrasted what he called the poor eternus, the eternal child who chases novelty and surface-level success, with the archetype of the wise old man. Most people in early adulthood are pure energy, collecting experiences like Instagram photos, climbing corporate ladders without questioning where they lead, checking boxes society handed them without examining whether those boxes mean anything. They date because everyone is dating. They pursue promotions because promotions are what you pursue. They buy things because buying things proves you made it. But you were born with old soul energy. You cannot rush. You cannot skip steps. You cannot build on foundations that feel shaky. When everyone else was partying, you were home reading philosophy. When everyone else was networking, you were walking alone in nature, trying to understand why existence feels so heavy. When everyone else was celebrating shallow victories, you were wrestling with questions that have no easy answers. This made you seem like a failure in youth, but it was actually preparation for a kind of success they cannot comprehend yet. The loneliness cuts deeper than any career setback. You feel alien in your own generation. At parties, you are the one in the corner, exhausted by conversations that go nowhere. Someone asks what you do, and you can feel the energy required to perform interest in their response before they even speak. At work, You are the black sheep who asks uncomfortable questions in meetings everyone else wants to end. Quickly, why are we doing it this way? What is the actual purpose of this project? Is anyone else bothered by this obvious contradiction? Your questions make people shift uncomfortably because you are naming things everyone agreed not to name. In families, you become the scapegoat, the one who sees the dysfunction everyone else pretends does not exist. You point out that dad drinks too much, and suddenly you are the problem for mentioning it. You suggest that maybe everyone is not as happy as they claim, and you are accused of being negative. This is not paranoia. Jung documented this pattern repeatedly in his clinical work. Highly conscious individuals threaten the collective agreements that keep groups comfortable. Your presence makes people uneasy because you reflect truths they are not ready to face. You become a mirror, showing them what they are avoiding, and people hate mirrors that show unflattering reflections. While your peers are building impressive resumes, you are building something else entirely: character. Jung called this the architecture of depth. You refuse to stack achievements on shaky foundations. You will not take a job that requires you to compromise your values, even if it pays well, and everyone tells you you are stupid for turning it down. You will not enter a relationship just to avoid being alone, even though being alone can feel like social death at any age. You will not pretend to believe things you do not believe just to fit in, even though fitting in would make life so much easier. This looks like failure to the outside world. Your bank account is smaller. Your relationship status is emptier. Empaths aren't broken. They're alchemists in progress. The alchemist's path gives you drills, Jung-based boundaries, and 3 exclusive chapter videos to turn overwhelm into clarity. By Surreal Mind, 236-page downloadable ebook in stock. Begin now at thesurrealmind.com. Your LinkedIn profile is less impressive, but you are refusing to build a life on lies. And that refusal slows you down in the short term, but saves you from collapse in the long term. The people who sprinted ahead early often hit walls in their 30s and 40s that destroy them. The career they climbed turns out to be a ladder against the wrong building, and now they are stuck at the top of something they never wanted in the first place. The marriage they rushed into crumbles under the weight of 2 people who never did their inner work, who never learned who they actually are beneath their personas. The persona they built becomes a prison they cannot escape. They wake up at 35 or 42 and realize they have been living someone else's life. They have become their job, title, their relationship status, their social media presence. But they have no idea who they are underneath all that performance. You avoided this trap not because you are smarter, but because you are constitutionally incapable of living inauthentically. Your depth would not let you. What truly separates you is that you confronted your shadow early. Jung defined the shadow as everything about yourself you refuse to acknowledge. The darkness, the selfishness, the capacity for cruelty that exists in every human being. Most people spend years running from their shadow, numbing it with success, substances, social media, constant busyness, anything to avoid being alone with the uncomfortable truths about who they are. But people like you do not get that luxury. Your depth forces you to face what others avoid: depression, anxiety, existential dread, the 3 a.m. panic about meaninglessness, the realization that you contain the capacity for terrible things, the understanding that you are not the hero of your own story, but often the villain. These are not signs you are broken. These are signs you are integrating parts of yourself that most people will not touch until a midlife crisis forces their hand. Jung believed that confronting your shadow early makes you psychologically invincible later. When you have already walked through your own darkness, when you have already acknowledged your capacity for selfishness, pettiness, cruelty, and cowardice, very little can destabilize you. You become immune to the superficial fears that control others. Fear of what people think, fear of missing out, fear of being alone, fear of failure. You already faced worse. You already sat with the void and survived. This gives you a kind of power that people who avoided their shadow work cannot access. They can be manipulated by their own unacknowledged darkness. You cannot, because you already know what is there. You play the long game because you see patterns others miss. This is Jungian intuition in action. You can sense when a relationship is heading toward disaster, even when everyone else sees romance and possibility. You can feel when a career path is a dead end, even when it looks promising on paper and comes with impressive benefits. You can detect when someone is lying, not because they said something provably false, but because their energy does not match their words. You hesitate to take paths you know will lead nowhere, even when those paths are popular, well lit, and crowded with people cheering you on. This pattern recognition is a gift, but it is also a curse in a world that rewards blind optimism. People accuse you of being negative, pessimistic, overthinking, killing the vibe, raining on parades. But you are not overthinking. You are seeing clearly. And seeing clearly in a world built on collective delusion is exhausting. Your intuition works like weather forecasting for human behavior. You can feel the storm coming before clouds appear. You sense the ending of things before they officially end. You know who someone is beneath their presentation before they reveal it. This makes you hesitant, where others are confident, cautious, where others are reckless. And in your 20s, this looks like weakness. But in your 30s and beyond, when their blind optimism has led them into disasters you saw coming miles away, your caution looks like wisdom. The world rewards efficiency and fakeness, at least in the first half of life. Corporations promote people who play politics well, not people who tell the truth. Social media celebrates carefully curated highlights, not authentic struggle. Dating apps reward people who can perform attraction in 6 photos and a witty bio, not people who offer depth that cannot be captured in swipes. In this environment, you struggle. You cannot succeed until you are authentic, and authenticity takes time to build. It requires confronting your shadow, understanding your patterns, clarifying your values, building a life that actually reflects who you are, not who you think you should be. This is slow work. There are no shortcuts, no life hacks, no 5-step programs to authentic selfhood. But here is the shift Jung identified. In the second half of life, the world gets tired of fakes. By their mid-30s, people start craving authenticity because they have been burned enough times. They have been betrayed by smooth talkers, disappointed by performers, exhausted by surfaces that promised depth but delivered nothing. They are tired of friends who only show up for Instagram moments, tired of partners who look good on paper but feel empty in reality, tired of careers that impressed everyone but meant nothing. This is when you become valuable, not because you changed, but because the world finally caught up to what you have been offering all along. The depth you built while they built facades, the authenticity you cultivated while they cultivated audiences, the wisdom you earned while they earned titles. The transformation happens in what the Greeks called metanoia, a turning of the mind. For most people like you, it arrives somewhere in your 30s or early 40s. You wake up one day and realize you are done apologizing, done explaining yourself, done trying to convince people who cannot understand you. You stop apologizing for your depth. You stop trying to speed up to match everyone else's pace. You stop caring whether people understand you. You lean fully into your weirdness, your sensitivity, your need for meaning. You accept that small talk will always bore you to tears, that networking events will always feel like death, that you will never be the life of the party, and something miraculous happens. The moment you stop trying to fit in, you start succeeding on your own terms. Not because you finally learned to play the game, but because you stopped playing it entirely. You built something real while everyone else was building facades, and real always, wins in the end. It might take longer, it might look less impressive in the early stages, but real does not collapse when life gets hard. Real does not crumble when the performance becomes unsustainable. Real lasts, and in a world of temporary everything, lasting is revolutionary. The success you achieve is different from what you watched your peers achieve in their 20s. It is sustainable. It is not built on performing a role until you burn out. It is not an ego trip that requires constant external validation to maintain. It feels like destiny, not ambition. Like you are stepping into something that was always waiting for you, rather than forcing something to happen through sheer will. Jung observed that people who succeed late become the magicians, counselors, and visionaries their communities need most. You become the person others come to when the surface-level solutions stop working. When marriages fall apart, despite doing everything the relationship book suggested, they seek your wisdom. When careers feel empty, despite achieving everything society said would make them happy, they ask how you found meaning. When life stops making sense and therapy is not enough, they want to understand how you navigated that darkness years ago. Your late start becomes your credibility. You are not giving advice from a book you read or a course you took. You are offering hard-won wisdom from living deeply, from making mistakes in the dark, from building yourself from the ground up without a blueprint. People can feel the difference between someone who studied depth and someone who lived it. You lived it. And that makes you invaluable. There is a profound truth Jung taught that liberates people like you. Late is just a judgment of the ego. Your ego looks at external timelines and panics. Everyone else is married by 30, promoted by 25, established by 28, retired by 55. The ego creates arbitrary deadlines and then tortures you for missing them. But your soul operates on a different clock. In the soul's time, you are right on schedule. The depth you are building cannot be rushed. The integration you are doing cannot be skipped. The authenticity you are cultivating cannot be faked. Every person who bloomed early did so by avoiding the work you are doing right now. They skipped steps. They built on shaky foundations. They chose speed over depth. And they will pay for that avoidance later. You are paying up front, doing the hard work of becoming whole, while others are still chasing fragments. Facing your darkness while others are still running from theirs. Building character while others are building resumes. And when the second half of life arrives, when the foundations start to matter more than the facades, you will be unshakable while they are scrambling. This is the power of the late bloomer. You do not peak at 25 and spend the rest of your life trying to recapture lost glory. You do not burn out at 35 from building a life you never wanted. You do not wake up at 45 wondering who you are beneath the masks. You become more powerful with age, more grounded with each passing year, more clear about what matters, more yourself in ways that deepen rather than diminish. While others are having their breakdowns, you are having your breakthroughs. While others are starting therapy to undo damage, you already did that work. While others are finally asking the big questions about meaning and purpose, you have been living with those questions for decades. Trust your timeline. The world will tell you that you are behind, that you should have it figured out by now, that something is fundamentally wrong with you for not keeping pace. Your family will worry. Your friends will offer unsolicited advice about lowering your standards or being more realistic. Society will send 1,000 subtle messages that you are failing. Ignore that noise. You are not behind. You are building foundations that will support a life others can only dream about. You are developing capacities that will make you invaluable in the second half of life. You are becoming someone who cannot be shaken, manipulated, or seduced by shallow promises. The rarest personality succeeds later because real success cannot be rushed. Depth cannot be microwaved. Wisdom cannot be Googled. Authenticity cannot be performed. And you, whether you realize it or not, are becoming the most dangerous kind of person. Someone who knows themselves completely. Someone who built their life consciously, brick by brick, choice by choice. Someone who chose meaning over money, depth over speed, truth over comfort. That kind of person is unstoppable. Not because they bulldoze obstacles, but because they are rooted so deeply that storms cannot move them. Not because they are louder than everyone else, but because they are more solid. Jung spent his life studying people like you, and his conclusion should give you hope. The path of the introverted intuitive, the old soul, the late bloomer, is the path of individuation. It is the path of becoming fully human rather than a successful shell. It is painful, lonely, and slow, but it produces human beings of such depth and power that they change everyone they touch. You are not failing, you are transforming, and transformation, real transformation, takes time. Jung identified something else that gives you an advantage in the long term. While everyone else was optimizing for external success, you were forced to develop internal resources. You learned how to be alone without being lonely. You learned how to find meaning in activities that do not impress anyone. You learned to validate yourself when nobody else would. These are not soft skills. These are survival skills that become superpowers in the second half of life. When external validation dries up, when achievements stop feeling satisfying, when the applause ends, most people fall apart because they never developed an internal sense of worth. You already built that, out of necessity, out of years of being told you were not enough while knowing deep down that you were. That internal foundation is priceless. You also developed something Jung called psychological mindedness, the ability to observe your own mental processes, to catch yourself in patterns, to understand why you react the way you do. Most people live their entire lives as passengers in their own minds, carried along by unconscious reactions and inherited beliefs they never examined. You became the driver. You had to. Your sensitivity forced you to understand yourself because misunderstanding yourself was too painful. Every mistake hurt more. Every failure cut deeper. So you learned. You paid attention. You noticed patterns. You did the work of self-understanding that most people avoid until crisis forces them into it. This psychological mindedness makes you adaptable in ways others are not. When life changes, when plans fall apart, when the unexpected happens, you can adjust because you know yourself well enough to navigate new territory. Others panic when their scripts stop working. You have been writing your own script all along. You know how to improvise, how to find meaning in chaos, how to rebuild from nothing. These capacities come from years of feeling like an outsider, years of having to create your own path because the well-worn paths never fit you. The late bloomer's advantage is that you learned resilience when the stakes were lower. You failed small and often in your 20s. Relationships that did not work, jobs that were not right, living situations that fell apart. Each failure taught you that you could survive failure, that endings are not deaths, that starting over is not defeat. By your 30s, you have a relationship with failure that others do not develop until much later, if ever. You know how to fall down and get back up, how to lose everything and rebuild, how to sit in the ashes and trust that something new will grow. This makes you almost impossible to break. So when you feel left behind, remember the bamboo tree. 5 years of invisible growth underground where nobody can see the progress, where it looks like nothing is happening, where doubt creeps in about whether anything will ever emerge. Then 90 feet in 6 weeks. Suddenly, powerfully, undeniably, your roots are growing right now, deep in the darkness where no one can see them. Deeper than the roots of people who sprouted quickly, and when you finally rise, nothing will stop you, because you built foundations they skipped, because you did work they avoided, because you became real while they stayed performing. The moment is coming. The moment when everything you built in the darkness becomes visible in the light. When your depth becomes your greatest asset, instead of your biggest liability. When the world needs exactly what you spent years developing. When people look at you and cannot understand how you suddenly became so powerful, so clear, so unshakable. But it was not sudden, it was slow, it was deep, it was inevitable. You are not late, you are right on time. Jung's time, soul time, bamboo time, the kind of time that builds things meant to last. Trust it. Trust yourself. Trust the process of becoming that you have been engaged in while everyone else was busy achieving. Your time is coming, and when it arrives, it will not be fleeting success that fades. It will be lasting power that compounds. The rarest personality succeeds later, because the rarest success requires the rarest preparation. And you, without even knowing it, have been preparing all along. In the alchemist's path, perception training for empaths, you'll turn overwhelm into wisdom with practical drills, Jung-inspired boundaries, and step-by-step perception training. This guide includes 3 exclusive chapter videos to deepen each lesson. Written by Surreal Mind, 236 pages, beautifully designed 8.5 by 11 downloadable ebook, in stock now. Start your training today. Feel deeply while thinking clearly. Get The Alchemist's Path at thesurrealmind.com.